Rock, it's the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. There is Mr. Bob Pollock. Extension joins us this morning. Our visit presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm, best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row, and the best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
I am noticing out in the yard that there is a ton of activity for the moles. I mean, they've got it all ripped up out there, and well, before evidently Skunky Poo went to sleep for the winter, he was enjoying his time out there. It's fascinating the I don't know, the biology that goes on out there, because
it is.
You watch that life cycle go on. And then you say, "What have you done to my beautiful lawn?" But they're very active.
You got free aeration.
That's one way to look at it. Okay, let's go with that.
You had helpers.
Yeah. But one of the things that you notice looking at a lawn, if there's no snow on it at the moment, is when the grass goes dormant, and the stuff that you really like about your lawn goes dormant. It's kind of hard to hide the winter weeds. They're enjoying their time right now, aren't they?
They are. Yep, they will keep going when other things slow down. If it's not the weeds, it's the wildlife or the insects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that keeps going. Speaking of the insects, I saw a nice, big, healthy stink bug in the house yesterday down in the garage, and thought, that still goes on. And you talk often about how they will search for the openings. Of course, if you're opening that big old garage door to take the cars in, there's an opening.
Right, yeah, there's an easy way in.
Yeah.
They usually make it more challenging, or it usually is more challenging to get in. But you're right, yeah. This time of year, and by now, really, a lot of insects are going into either, if they overwinter as adults, they're looking for a place to hang out where they're protected, because their bodies are still functioning throughout the winter. Some of them may, they're slowing down, and they can do that, and they can adapt to the cold, most of them very well. But they also look for places to kind of hang out where it's protected, where they're not exposed, and that's from a predator perspective too. Something else that might come along in the food chain and that's bigger than them and need to eat too, and so the birds or something like that, can come along and get them. So they hide for that reason, but then also just to help protect against winter winds that can cause them to desiccate, to lose moisture, and to preserve. Most of them are not going to eat over the winter, so they've already had to do their meals, get enough energy stored in their body that they'll be able to survive the winter. And so some of those will do that on the outside of the house, or they'll just find cracks and crevices to go in, or they might hunker down under plants, in leaves that have fallen, in mulch, any of those places. And of course, we've talked about insects that overwinter in stems of plants.
Yeah.
So that, that's a good, and a lot of those are beneficial insects in that case that do that, overwinter in that way. So that's a good reason to leave some things out there, some havens for them to spend the winter in. But, the typical sealing up, and of course you get flies are one that's common. And then stink bugs can also be ladybugs of various colors and shapes and sizes.
I noticed that we have casement windows that are always tightly locked. But when you crank one open, for some reason, there's a stink bug carcass underneath it. How did they get in? I mean, it's perfectly sealed.
So like replacement windows, vinyl type of windows, they've got air. There's slots in there, drainage slots, so that when moisture does come and hit the window, that there's a way for that moisture to weep holes essentially to get out. But a lot of bugs can crawl through those little slots and grooves, kind of get in under there, and it's a great place to. And there's other insects that will actually make nests in those little tiny cracks and grooves of where the window actually runs. You can slide the window up, and it's like, wow, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But those little nests of little pieces, and right down there in the cracks and the corners, and
that's pretty amazing.
yeah, it is amazing.
Want to ask you about not wild grasses, but ornamental grasses, the tall ones. Down halfway through the yard, I've got some that are about 6 feet tall from their summer growth. Had beautiful summer, and of course they've got the great big heads on them that are now all dead, of course. But are the seeds that are in those heads, are those basically grass seeds that are going to fall out and they're going to germinate and cause propagation?
They could. Some of those definitely do. A lot of them don't for one reason or another. They're either not viable, but yet they might land on the top of the ground, but never are able to grow.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you'll see where you have a border of that, and it maybe is in a bed, and then you've got lawn all out around it. And some of those, I've seen where they've creeped into they get out and land in the yard.
Yeah.
And they start to grow. And of course, they're green, and when they're young, and then you're mowing the grass. But when you look closely, you'll see that, well, this green plant looks a little different.
Yeah.
It's a little more coarser textured and flatter leaves, and it can actually become a problem in the yard.
Yeah.
But a lot of those are pretty tame. They don't tend to cause much problem.
Well, with those, you have talked in the past about how as they become more established, the center portion that
Yes.
of a rounded plant bed, the center portion will basically die out for lack of nutrition and sunshine, and so it's a complex, but it's basically around the circumference, and in the middle, there's not a lot to happen in there.
No, it grows out from there as that plant matures and develops and ages. It tends to grow out, and then the center where that actual beginning plant started, it's gone. And of course, when you get to that point, in a lot of cases you can leave it go. But if things start to get too big or start to grow out of bounds, then of course we can dig that up.
I was going to say, do people dig it up and then just replace?
You can. Well, and you don't even have to. You can replace it with the pieces that you dig up. You can repropagate that. Essentially, it's like a perennial plant.
Just move the soils.
Yeah. You can just dig chunks of that, and where you have one big, huge plant, you could maybe make 8 or 10 new ones, and just lift the whole thing out, divide it up, and then plant each one of those chunks.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can really propagate that plant on, by yourself.
That's pretty good stuff.
So it's not that it ages out, or if it dies, that's one thing. But most cases, they're not going to die. They're just going to continue to expand outward from where they were originally planted, and then and it's like other, like rhubarb, for example.
Okay.
Something like that, where over time it continues to grow. And then the oldest part of the plant, it may get infected with, might be attacked by bugs or boars or something like that. And then that dies. But yet we still have these new, younger plants that are there to keep things going.
When a plant gets older like that, it's more likely to not be able to fight off problems as opposed to a younger plant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not,
it is
not always, but that can happen.
It's the playoff season, and the Super Bowl for Poinsettias is coming up very, very soon. It's championship time for them. They should be pretty well turned and
They should be.
and be very, very pretty for folks right now if they've taken care of them with the darkness rotation that you've had going. Christmas cactus the same way. Do they bloom
Yeah.
about now too? That's
Yeah,
why they call them
they
that.
should be right. Yeah, if you had a Thanksgiving one, then it should be dropped, and that's when mine blooms. Is at Thanksgiving, so it might have one or two flowers left on it at this point. Yeah, and if you have a Christmas one, those buds should be, they're either ready to open up, should be full of buds, ready to open up or pretty close to that, or it might have even started to open at this point.
Yeah. And then afterwards, and I probably should ask you this then, but afterwards, when the plants are done blooming, what do you do with them? You just put them in the window, let them get some light, and just go through their natural cycle?
They've had their time to shine, and then they go back to being a green plant.
Okay, then.
Remember Dave's
Christmas cactus was amazing that he
had a monster one out here.
Yeah.
He'd been nursing that along for years.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful one.
Yeah,
I'm sure it still is.
What he didn't realize was it was plastic.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. It did bloom. It was wonderful. It was a beautiful
Yeah,
plant.
but those are tropical house plants, and so they just kind of blend themselves back in. And usually the foliage on those is interesting, though. It's not just a little leaf. It's those pieces, and they have distinct character to them, so they add some interest, and then they tend to weep too. So they have a different appearance.
Yeah. I tend to do that too when we get to this time of the year. All right, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It is I don't think we solved anything here. It's the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Josh is next from the WCCS newsroom.